We move to the apartment of a person named Vincent, who takes a long time shaving and cleaning. He removes any hair or dead skin that may fall off him, and then burns it. After that, he takes a urine bag from the fridge and rubs it on his thighs to make it look like the urine is his own. He also puts some blood in prosthetic fingers and carefully attaches them to his real finger. After that, Vincent goes to work at the space company Gattaca, where every employee must cut their finger to verify their identity before being allowed entry. Vincent allows the device to take a blood sample from his prosthetic finger, then sits at his desk to work on various spaceflight plans. Every now and then, he cleans the keyboard of DNA traces using a small device. The mission director visits Vincent and expresses his admiration for the cleanliness of his office, confirming to him that he has been selected to join a trip to Saturn's moon Titan next week. After his departure, Vincent secretly opens a box and begins to dispose of skin, hair, and nails in his work area. He also places some hair on the comb he keeps in his desk drawer. Vincent undergoes a substance test to ensure he is clean before the mission, where he provides a urine sample using the hidden pouch. When the doctor checks the sample, the result shows that his name is Jerome and that he is a good citizen. After finishing work, Vincent goes to watch another plane take off from the ground. His colleague Irene comes to congratulate him on getting the assignment and explains to him that he is the only employee who monitors all the daily launches. Then Vincent starts to recall moments from his past life. His parents were having a great time at the beach, but his mother accidentally got pregnant with him. Vincent was born naturally, which was rare at that time. And when he was examined, the doctors took a blood sample and found that he had a high probability of developing many diseases, so it was expected that his lifespan would be 30 years. Vincent's childhood was extremely difficult, as his mother treated any minor illness as a deadly threat. The school accepted Vincent as a student only because of his genetic defects, as insurance did not cover any problems resulting from his genes. In the end, his parents decided to have another child, but this time they used genetic laboratories to ensure everything was right. Anton, Vincent's brother, was free from any illnesses and was happy spending time with his brother. But Vincent felt that he was being treated differently compared to Anton. The brothers were playing a game on the beach, where they would hold their breath underwater to see who could swim farther before feeling scared and coming back. Anton always defeated Vincent in this competition, which increased his sense of inferiority. As he grew up, Vincent began to take an interest in space and dreamed of becoming an astronaut, but his parents warned him that this dream was impossible due to his genes. However, he didn't listen to them and participated in many interviews, but he failed to find a job, just as his parents had expected. One day, the brothers went swimming again, and to everyone's surprise, it was Vincent who defeated Anton this time. In fact, Anton was in danger, as he was drowning, and Vincent had to go back and help him so he could return to the shore. That was the last time they swam together. At night, Vincent decided to keep his family in place to achieve his dreams, and eventually got a job at Gattaca as a janitor, where he cleaned the offices and used the computer when no one was around, and he was fascinated by the daily flights. He also discovered the blood prick that happened in the same finger daily, and he stole a small sensor that fell from his device. Vincent never stopped dreaming, and the foreman always mocked him. In his apartment, Vincent didn't stop exercising, even though he had started feeling the effects on his body. In a state of despair, he decided to contact a man in the black market, who provided him with the real Jerome, the former swimming star, who possessed great intelligence and perfect health except for his legs, as he was paralyzed after a car accident. The accident occurred abroad and was not recorded, so no one knew that Jerome had become unfit. Vincent paid the men to get Jerome's identity and began the long process of transformation. He got contact lenses to replace his glasses and chose the same eye color as Jerome. He also cut and styled his hair exactly like Jerome's. There was no problem with the ID photo, because the blood samples were the most important, and everything depended on the DNA. The last problem was that Jerome was taller than Vincent, so Vincent had to undergo surgery to break his legs and re-extend them to match Jerome's height. Vincent moved into Jerome's apartment to get his address as well. During the first few days, he had to rest and recover from the surgery, as he spent most of the time in pain. In those days, Vincent learned how to sign Jerome's signature and how to write with his other hand, while Jerome filled the urine bags. One day, Jerome showed Vincent his silver medal to remind him that he had much to live for. Then he told him to call him Eugene, so that Vincent would get used to being called by his real name. When the awaited day came, Vincent finally tested the urine bag on the device, and an error message appeared because the urine contained alcohol. Vincent started yelling at Jerome about his addiction, and after testing a bunch of bags, he finally found a clean one and took it with him. In the office, the doctor conducted the test and confirmed that Vincent was Jerome, thus making him eligible. Vincent was not sent to a real interview. He was hired immediately because of his intelligence. After that, Vincent was careful to scrub his body every day to remove the shedding skin, hair, and nails, and everything was burned in an incinerator. His clothes were kept in sealed bags to avoid contamination. While working, Vincent would place samples of Jerome on his desk to maintain the illusion, and he would always use prosthetics filled with Jerome's blood to pass the identity check at the door. No one suspected anything. Then we return to the present, where everyone in Gattaca is in a state of chaos after the company director was killed using Jerome's keyboard. Vincent was rubbing his eyes as he watched the horrific scene, not noticing that some hair from his eyelashes had fallen. The police arrived immediately to collect all DNA evidence from the crime scene, including the fallen eyelash. Larn said he would need the police's help in any way possible. The mission was not canceled, and Vincent is still going to space. When he shared the news with Jerome, they decided to go out to celebrate. They drank so much that they did some moves in the smoke inside their cups. In the office, Aaron took the hair from Vincent's drawer and brought it to the matchmaking service, where some tests were conducted, and they concluded that Vincent is a big catch, which piqued their interest. By the end of the night, Jerome was so drunk that Vincent had to help him to bed. Suddenly, Jerome confessed that he wasn't drunk when the car accident happened. He was actually trying to commit suicide. The next morning, the police forensic department tested all the samples and discovered that the unfit person was in Gattaca. He is now the main suspect. We return to Vincent, who placed the small sensor he had stolen during the days he was a janitor on Jerome's chest to record 20 minutes of his pulse while he vigorously spun the wheels of his wheelchair to simulate the exercise he underwent in Gattaca. Vincent underwent a running test in Gattaca and switched the sensor he had brought from his office. At the same time, the investigators were checking the profile of the unfit person belonging to a janitor who had disappeared years ago. The investigators were interrogating some people, and at the same time, Vincent was listening to them talk, which made him feel tense. Things got worse for him when the 20-minute recording ended, revealing Vincent's true pulse, which was very high. He immediately went to the locker room and collapsed while trying to regain his composure. After work, Erin met Vincent and confessed that she had read his DNA sequence, which actually belonged to Jerome. She was very impressed by him because he was perfect, and she felt that he was much better than her. She also admitted that she was a lab child but had a heart condition and might suffer heart failure soon. This means she will not be accepted for the mission. But Vincent told her that he sees nothing wrong with her. So Erin gave him a strand of her hair and encouraged him to test it to see her genetic flaws, but he threw it away and told her it was lost in the air. After a while, Vincent was working on the computer, and suddenly all the employees discovered the profile of the unworthy person who had the same eyelash. They tried to classify it, but no one recognized it. However, Vincent was still scared. When he returned home, he told Jerome that he was the main suspect and started emptying the bags of blood and urine. Jerome immediately stood up and thought that no one would be able to discover who Vincent was, and no one would suspect that he was unfit. That night, Vincent decided to go out so as not to raise suspicion if he changed his routine. And when he looked out the window, he saw Erin come to pick up Vincent moments later. Vincent and Erin attended a piano concert as their first date, and after the concert, the pianist threw his gloves into the audience, and Vincent realized he had 12 fingers. Irene explained that there is no beautiful and complex piece of music like this that can be played except with these hands. At the same time, the investigators were gathering a group of unsavory characters from the neighborhood to find the killer, but they had no DNA match for the eyelash. So they decided to check all the buildings around Gattaca and reached Jerome's apartment where they conducted a blood test. The investigators were surprised that a disabled man in a wheelchair could work at Gattaca, but Jerome acted as if he were angry and shouted at them, saying he was not disabled but only injured due to training, and accused them of discrimination. And because the investigator didn't want any trouble, he left him and went away. In Gattaca, the officers took all the garbage bags. Let's return to Erin and Vincent, where upon their return home they found the road blocked by the police as they were conducting searches on everyone in the area. Vincent immediately removed his lenses and avoided the saliva test after telling them he had been drinking, so the police took a blood sample instead, and the prosthetics fooled them as usual. After passing the inspection, Erin said she wanted to show him something, and she stopped the car shortly after to cross the street quickly while interacting with the oncoming cars. However, Vincent was hesitant because he couldn't see well without the lenses. After a long hesitation, he also ran and avoided the collision. After that, Erin took him to watch the sunrise at the solar panel center, which cast a beautiful light effect, but Vincent saw it unclearly. As they ascended, Erin noticed that Vincent's eyes were a bit different, and he told her it was because of the light. After a while, the investigators discovered that a cup of trash in the office contained the same DNA as the eyelash, and they recalled that the unfit person might have been disguised and killed the manager because he discovered the truth. To be sure, they went to Gattaca and announced that they would take blood samples directly from the vein instead of the extremities. And when it was Vincent's turn, he acted as if the doctor had melted the needle and jumped from the chair, but he quickly replaced his blood sample with Jerome's blood sample. The investigators conducted the tests and found no match. That night, Vincent and Aaron went on another date, but their heads were torn apart by the police, who began collecting everything containing DNA, such as tissues and cigarette butts. They also wanted to test people, so Vincent immediately fled with Aaron through the back door. One of the officers tried to stop them, but Vincent immediately knocked him out, then called Aaron and fled through the dark alleys. When the other officers arrived and found their partner on the ground, they began searching for the two fugitives who had hidden in a dark neighborhood. One of the detectives shouted Vincent's name, and Aaron asked who he was, but Vincent was lost to her. And after a few moments, the two went to Aaron's apartment. The next morning, Vincent found a hair on the pillow, so he quickly went to the beach and used sand and rocks to exfoliate the excess skin from his body. And when he returned, Irene asked him about the scars on his leg, and he told her they were the result of a car accident. At the same time, the investigators were comparing Jerome's profile, Vincent in disguise, and decided to conduct further tests. They returned to Gattaca, took the keys from Vincent's keyboard, and asked about him by the name Jerome. Aaron heard that and quickly warned Vincent. She spoke to him in code, as if she were talking to someone else. Vincent understood the warning and left the building. Aaron told the investigator that Vincent went home because he was sick, but the investigator insisted and asked her to take him to Jerome's house. At the same time, Vincent called Jerome and asked him to pretend to be him because the police were coming. Jerome had to leave the wheelchair and slowly climb the stairs to the upper floor, arriving at the right moment to allow Irene and the investigator to enter. He dragged his body to the chair and positioned himself to make his legs look normal. When the two entered, Jerome played the role of Vincent and asked Irene for a kiss, which she immediately gave him to maintain the lie. The detective took a blood sample and was upset when he found that it actually matched Jerome. Then he left. Later, Vincent met with Aaron and explained his situation to her, swearing that he hadn't killed anyone, but she was still scared and left him. At the police station, they discovered that the manager's saliva was on the victim's eye, which means the manager spat on the victim after threatening to cancel the space mission. After a while, Vincent returned to his office and found the investigator there, who turned out to be his brother Anton, but they didn't recognize each other at first. Anton accused Vincent of forgery and wanted to arrest him, so the brothers got into a fight. Vincent decided to show him his strength and challenged him to a swimming race like they did when they were teenagers, and they went to the beach. After swimming a long distance, Anton started to tire and drown, so Vincent saved him and brought him back to the shore. The next day, Jerome gave Vincent a card and asked him to open it only when he was in space. When Vincent arrived at Gattaca to prepare for the mission, he found that the doctor had requested a new sample, and Vincent was not ready for that, but he pretended to urinate in the cup. The doctor revealed to him that he had known about his deception from the beginning, but he hadn't reported him because he believed that his unworthy son deserved a better life. Vincent left, and at that moment, Jerome entered the incinerator and left Vincent a message with a lock of his hair as a memento, which meant he had visited space in some way.